Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going over the online PDF textbook, AppInventor2, Create Your Own Android Apps by Wolber, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. I'm in the middle of Chapter 13, Amazon at the bookstore. And we're up to scanning a book. It says, let's face it, typing on a cell phone isn't easy, especially if you've got fat fingers. Alright, so we'd like to be able to launch the app and scan the barcode of the book. This is another great built-in Android phone feature you can easily tap into. The function barcode scanner, which is what we're going to need, alright, starts up the scanner. You'll want to call this when the scan button is clicked. So let's do that first. We're kind of running out of room here, so I'm going to collapse and collapse and collapse so I can move this up. Okay? So when this happens, we want to call barcode1 or barcode scanner 1.doScan. All right? And we also want to come in and we want to have our barcode1 scanner after scan. Okay. So as the do scan starts up the scanner. You'll want to do this when the scan button is clicked. The event handler barcode scanner after scan is triggered as soon as something has been scanned. If it has one argument, a result, it has one argument, result, which contains the information that was scanned. In this case, you want to initiate an ISBN search using that result. So we put in this, now we have to put in this. Alright, so we want to set our results label, and we're going to put a join in there. And that join will have two components, now searching for and get result. All right, then we want to set our search text box text to that same get result. And we want to call the TinyWebDB get value. And for that, we want to join ISBN and our search text box.text. Now this up here should match whatever we put in here. So we put ISBN colon, so that should be a match. All right. No idea whether or not that's case sensitive or not. I'm going to guess it's not, but I could always be wrong. The search text box.text. Alright, so as it says here, when the user clicks the scan button, doScan launches the scanner. When something has been scanned, after scan is triggered. The argument holds the result of the scan, in this case the book's ISBN. The user is notified that a request has been made. The result, being the scanned ISBN number, is placed in the search text box, and the TinyWeb db1.getValue is called to initiate the search. Again, it's the GotValue event that will process the book information afterwards. Click the scan button and scan the barcode of a book. Does the app display the book information? Well, here goes nothing. I have no idea if this will work, especially working on the emulator. But we'll try it anyway, just to see what happens. Your device does not have a scanning. It gave an error. It does not have a scanning application installed. All right. So I don't know if there's a barcode scanner that has to be installed on here or not. But my guess is this probably does not work here, where it probably would work if I had this connected to an Android device. All right. So we're up to improving the display. And this is, I believe, yeah, this is the last major part of the chapter. It says a client app like the one you're using can do whatever it wants with the data it receives, but ideally, we'd process the data and make it look a little nicer. And in particular, it says, let's process the data by, number one, putting the title, price, and ISBN for each book into separate variables, and secondly, displaying those items in an orderly fashion. If you've completed some of the earlier chapters, we've already worked with variables, so that's no biggie. All right, so we'll need a, looks like here, like a global result list for empty list, a title, a cost, and an ISBN. So we need 4 variables. Let's take what we're working on here and let's again collapse and collapse. And our variables will first be result list, which will be an empty list. Create empty list. All right, so there's our first one. Then we need title, cost, and ISBN, which will all be initialized to the empty string. So title, cost, and ISBN. Title, oops. Cost, ISBN. All right. Now we've got to come in here and put in a for loop, it looks like. So we have to add this whole big block that's in here. All right, so we need a for each. And that will be inside of our when tinywebdb1.got value. Okay, I think we can, let's do this. We'll move these way the hay up. And we'll move these over to here. All right, so that's what we have now. We've got that if-then statement. All right, but we need to add the for each to the then block. I think everything that's in here is correct. But we need to add the for each right after the set in here. So right there, we need a for each. Is that a for each item in list? For each item in list. Good. And this item will be called book item in list. And we want to call here get global result list. All right, then we have to set our title, set our cost, set our ISBN. Now I'm going to get the red thing up here eventually, probably, because I'm not putting anything in here yet, but don't worry about that. We'll get it in. All right, to select list item, list with the index. Okay, and we want get book item, and get book item 1, 2, and 3. Whoops. Now we need to set our result label text. And this looks pretty big. We're going to have a join with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 components. There's our join, and it's got 2, 3, 4, 5, oops. 6, and there's our 7 components, okay? So we need results label.text, and then we need 2 \n. Followed by get global title, get global ISBN, and get global cost. And \n ISBN here. And \n lowest Amazon price. So, as mentioned here, we have 4 variables. We made the result list, our title, our cost, and our ISBN. The result list was a list. The title was a string. The cost was a number variable, and the ISBN was also, I believe, at least a string. Each was defined to hold its associated piece of data. The result from the API value from WebDB is placed in the result list. right there. This app could have processed the argument directly, but in general you put it in a variable in case you want to do some extra processing somewhere else in the program. A for each loop is then used to iterate through each item of the result. Recall that the data returned from Amazon is a list of lists, with each sublist representing information for a book. So the placeholder for the for each is renamed book item, and it holds the current book information on each iteration. Now we have to deal with the fact that the variable book item is a list. The first item is the title, the second is the price, the third is the ISBN. So we use the select list item blocks to extract what we need, and we even reorder it. After the data has been organized into variables, you can process it however you like. This app uses the variables as part of a join block that displays title, price, and ISBN on separate lines. So ideally, when we put in dogs, it's going to look like this. So let's give it a whirl. Does not look any different to me. So what I'm going to try is this. I'm going to connect, reset my connection just to be sure, and then I'll go check my code after I do that. So connect to the emulator. One thing I wanted to mention too is you may or may not have noticed there have been at least one or two times, well, probably more than that, maybe closer to a half dozen, that I've had during this series of videos that I've had to go back and restart the machine. This is not perfect software by any means. All right, I don't think there is such a thing. I think perfect software is kind of a misnomer, but it actually does work, and it works pretty well as far as I'm concerned. You may or may not agree, but after time, you take a look at it and draw your own conclusions. So let's come into here, and what was it, dogs? It still is not showing. So something in here is wrong. All right, my guess is that it's in here. So what I'm going to do, and I've done this before, is I'm going to go back to the book. I'm going to go and grab this, blow it up just, no, maybe about like that. There. Do a print screen. Open up a Word document, paste that in. So there's my print screen, and I can make this bigger if I want to, need to, whatever. And then I'm going to resize this and kind of compare these two. All right, when-tiny1 db.got value, tag value, initialize global list. That's good. Oh, I want to check it with a code. This is just checking it with itself. That is silly. All right, so let me move these down. Move these over. I already see a potential problem, but we're going to check it out anyway. All right, so I guess that was okay. TinyDB1 got value, tag value, initialize global result list to create empty list, title, cost, and ISBN are all set to the empty string. Okay. Let's see, how am I going to do this? Just like that. All right. now I see a mistake here. I've got results label text, and according to this, I want to set global result list, and then set the result list to blank. So this should have been 2 lines. I made it 1, unless it changed over this. But I want to set the result list to the empty string, and this get value from WebDB, I want to set the global results list to that. So let's come in and do that. So I have set the global result list to the get value from WebDB, set the results label text to the empty string. Then we have our for each loop. So move this up just a little. All right, for each book item in list, get global result list, set global title to select item list, get book item 1, global cost, select list item list, get book item 2, ISBN, select list item list, get book index 3, and set our label text to the join results label.text \n\n. The title to \ISBN:, well, there's a colon there, but that doesn't really matter. The get global ISBN, the lowest price to get global cost. That looks like it's okay to me. I'm going to add 2 things in here quickly. That is, I am going to put, like they show in the book, a semicolon there, and they also show a semicolon there. In fact, I may be wrong here, but just to be sure, I'm going to also put a space there. And I'm going to put a space there. All right. Now I've made those changes. The biggest one was the one right here, and I'm hoping that that will resolve the problem that I had. I'm going to try something a little different. What do I mean? Well, I'm going to come up here. Instead of dogs, all right, I'm going to put in here Android App Inventor 2. Search by keyword. And notice how we've got our each one here. All right, and you might look and say, well, that price is wrong. My guess is that that particular price is probably a Kindle book. Okay. Now all this stuff is in here, but we have to, actually move our way up to look at it. Let's do this. Let's kind of do what they did in the chapter, and that is, I'll cut this again, and I'll put in dogs. Watch how this changes when I click search for keyword, searching Amazon, and there's our dog stuff. All right. I think we've just about put this chapter to rest. So a dog's purpose, etc. Is this what we have here? All right. Different books, but you get the idea. All right, so that's the complete app. They show the code here on the next page. I'm not going to go through that because that's what we've been doing. All right. The API you connected to, and remember, this is wrong. This is API 2 if you happen to be watching this video, was created using the programming language Python and Google's App Engine, which lets you create and deploy websites and services like APIs that live on Google servers. You only end up paying for this when you start getting popular and you start getting a lot of hits. So like if you were doing it for educational purposes, you'd probably never be charged. The API service used in this tutorial provides only partial access to the full API and returns a max of 5 books. It says if you'd like to, you could download the source code. Remember, again, that's a 2 there, and customize it. And the author mentions if you want to start learning Python, you can check out an interactive version of this book, and this is just taken right from there. So Wow, looks very comprehensive. Okay, so I'm actually going to bookmark that page. And let's see where we are. For variations, the author says, as it is, the app hangs if the search doesn't return any books. You could modify that using something like a notifier that reports any kind of errors or just the fact that there were no results. Modify the app so that it displays, in fact, you don't even have to say under 10 as they say there. You should be able to set it up by the things we've gone over where you give a range type of thing. Modify it so that after you scan a book, its lowest Amazon price is spoken rather than given. Download this, and again, remember it's API2.appspot, and modify it so it returns more information. So the concepts that we learned in this chapter: you can access the web from an app by using TinyWebDB and specially constructed APIs. We did set the service URL for our TinyWebDB component. Accordingly, we set it to right here, again with an API 2 on there. And then we call tinywebdb.getValue, which wasn't returned immediately, and that's why we had the message that said that it was, scanning Amazon or whatever, but eventually it could be accessed using the tinywebdb.getValue event handler. All right, we looked a little bit, although I didn't have any luck with it, with the barcode scanner.doScan function to launch the scan. When the user scans a barcode, the barcode scanner.afterScan is triggered. We put a bunch of code in there. In App Inventor, complex data is represented with lists and lists of data. All right, you saw that, where we had a list with 5 books in it, and each book itself was a list. All right, so that concludes these first 13 chapters. When I come back, I'm going to jump into Chapter 14, Understanding an App's Architecture. All right, so we'll pick that up shortly.